Hi guys, how are you? Everybody well? So, today we're talking about panic. Why are we talking about panic? Because throughout lockdown, even those of you who've never experienced anxiety, who've never really felt stress, are for the very first time talking about feelings of panic. There is a reason for that. Now, I've spoken about it before. Our fundamental sense of safety in the world has rocked. So even if you've always been completely chill, you're a human, and humans need to feel certain things to feel safe. Those things are safety in their homes, safety in their health, and that they can provide for themselves. Over the last year, all three of those things for all of us have been affected in a number of different ways. So all of us are rocking at a 4 or 5 out of 10 on the anxiety scale all of the time. Now, within that, like I've spoken about before, there have been those little ground swells constantly of things that go wrong. Even if you feel like you've had an easier journey through this process than most people, there will have been ground swells like Christmas being cancelled, like whether the kids are going back to school or not. Lots of you are saying to me, even with the lockdown outline in place, so the route out of lockdown in place, you're still feeling really uncomfortable about that. And that's because nobody trusts it. It's really difficult after the last year to have any sense of hope. Our resilience over the last year has done this. And many of us have experienced real trauma like death, extreme sickness, losing jobs, losing security, losing homes, losing partners, relationship breakdowns, issues with our children. It's not surprising that many people who've always considered themselves quite mentally resilient are for the first time experiencing the shock of panic attacks. To talk about panic attacks, I should probably clarify what I mean. It is a sense of fear and anxiety that becomes so overwhelming that you lose the ability to think logically. It is the same feeling that you might have minutes before a tiger ate you, all of the time, in very rapid bursts. So you might be here most of the time, then all of a sudden it becomes overwhelming. It might feel like a little thing or nothing is triggering your panic attack. And that's the first myth that I want to clarify with you. You're not having a panic attack over nothing. There is an underlying sense of fear operating in you all of the time. So if you check in with your body, you might have a tight chest all of the time. You might have tight fists or sweating all of the time. Your head might feel buzzy a lot of the time. You might have dry mouth. You might be struggling to concentrate. You might constantly need to move around and be looking for jobs all of the time to distract yourself. You might be looking for things like alcohol or unhealthy foods like sugar to try and fill that fear gap in you right now. All of those behaviours are signs of increased levels of anxiety. And if you've never experienced that before, it can be really hard to know what's going on for you. Now, if anything at all ramps up that anxiety, you may well tip over into what we call a panic attack. And that might be something quite seemingly on the surface little. One of the things that has always been really difficult for me when I'm very anxious is noise. So if my family start making lots of noise at the same time and there's a TV on in the background and there's, a radio or my kid's on his phone and they're all chatting at me, I can flip. If I'm anxious, I can flip out into panic at that moment because I'm so high already that the extra stimulus feels just like an attack on my senses and I can't cope. You may tip over into panic because of a demand. Can you go to the shop? Can you fix this problem for me? Can you answer my question? Can you go to work? Can you go into public? There's lots of things that may feel like they're just too much for you to deal with right now, and that's normal. It's not because you're weak, it's not because you're crazy, it's because your sense of security in the world is so threatened that your body is flooding you with chemicals that leave you very jittery indeed all of the time, and you can only prioritize the acts or information that either relax that or keep you alive. Anything else is too much and may well tip you into a sense of panic. For your children, if we're talking about your children, that could be going to school. It could be exams. It could be doing extra homework. It could be looking after their sibling after they've already been at school all day and they're exhausted. I know that doesn't sound like much, but if they're very stressed and they're very anxious and they're very tired, coming home and having extra demands placed on them can be too much. It may not be that they're trying to get out of their chores. They could just be really, really struggling. When you tip into a panic attack, what does that look like? The classic idea is that we all go, and you need to give someone a brown paper bag. That can be what a panic attack looks like, but it's not always what a panic attack looks like. A panic attack can look like anger. It can look like somebody shouting and irritable and get out of my face. That's fight. It can look like running. I need you to leave me alone. I need you to not talk to me. I can't do it. I'm out. That's fleeing. It can look like a complete shutdown, a switch off. I can't do anything. It can look like I cannot get out of bed. I cannot face the day. I cannot motivate myself. That's shutdown. That's freeze. Fight, flight, or freeze. And there's a fourth one, fawn. It can look like suddenly trying really hard to please everybody. And the way that we're doing that in that minute, what we're trying to do is get all demands off us because we've met everybody's demands and everybody thinks we're lovely, so they'll leave us alone. All of those things have one thing in common. They are all about survival. They are not about you being crazy or weak or out of control or unable to manage yourself in any way, shape or form. The first thing to do if you want to try and deal with them, either in yourself or in somebody else, is remove any sense of demand. Nothing good ever came of talking to someone who was in a panic attack. So if you are trying to get your kid to tidy up, that means you need to wait. It doesn't mean letting them out of it forever. It just means remove the pressure in that minute. If it's a partner, don't try and fix it. Don't try and go, what do you need? Because they don't know in that moment, and neither do you. It means remove all pressure. Breathe. I would urge you to try and take a big breath as much as you can. Fill your lungs up so that your tummy expands as far as you can get it to go. And then exhale it as hard as you can. Try and do that a few times and it will reset your limbic system. So you will calm down quicker. Get outside. Close your eyes. Switch off one of your senses. Try and hear as much as you can, all the different things you can hear. Focus entirely on that. There are lots of grounding exercises, but that's the main one. If someone you love is having regular panic attacks, it's wise for both of you to sit and try and put a plan together. Someone who is in extreme panic and extreme anxiety, whether that's you or someone else, needs to feel a sense of control and agency. So what do you need? If you don't know, try things. Do you need to be left alone? Do you need to be held? Do you need complete reduction of noise? Do you need more noise? Try a few things. Work out when you might be heading towards panic and put those things in place then. Once you're in panic, there's very little you can do other than breathe and wait for it to pass. But get ahead of the panic attack. Recognize the physical signs in yourself of the panic attack coming and start to deal with those symptoms first. Then look at the overall reason. Sometimes there's no underlying cause for it. You're just stressed. We're all stressed. And that's okay. Now, I will be talking about these things a little bit more. Next month, I'll put the details in my comments. I am launching an evening session for helping your teenager with mental health. If you're worried about a teenager who's got mental health problems, I'll be doing a 2-hour session talking about what might be going on for them and how you can be really supportive with that process. I will also be launching one shortly afterwards for adults who are struggling with their mental health, perhaps for the very first time, and want to understand what's going on for them and how to support someone that they love who might be struggling with that issue. I will be back later this week to talk more about panic and what you can do to support somebody who's having panic attacks. But those are my first tips to try and get it under control. Try and remember you're not crazy. That's the worst thing. You feel like when this hits, you feel like you've lost your mind. You don't know what's happening to you. You might feel like you're going to die. You're not. It's fear. That's all. And you can control it. Just breathe. I'll see you later, guys.